Meet Sanjay Singh, a young man whose life was about to spiral into a nightmare. Having journeyed from a quaint village 200 kilometers from Meerut, he found himself settling into a staff quarter near the notorious GP block with his mother. Their first night in this unfamiliar place should have been filled with excitement. Instead, it marked the beginning of a harrowing ordeal. Sanjay, elated by his new job, remained blissfully unaware that he had taken up residence in one of the most haunted locations in all of India. That evening, as shadows lengthened and the sky deepened into an oppressive darkness, his mother busied herself in the kitchen, preparing his favorite meal, a comforting gesture that did little to quell the growing unease that hung in the air. After taking a brief stroll around the GP block with a flickering torch in hand, Sanjay returned to the quarter, only to be halted by a voice that sent chills racing down his spine. He heard his mother speaking softly, warning someone unseen. "It's not safe for you to be in such an area at this time of night." His heart raced as he approached her, demanding to know to whom she was speaking. She dismissed his concerns, claiming she was merely filling a pot with water for dinner. But as she turned, her gaze fell upon a figure emerging from the dense underbrush, a girl draped in a blood-red sari, her presence stark against the shadows. In an attempt to intervene, his mother called out, but the girl paid no heed, her hurried footsteps echoing ominously as she vanished into the depths of the GP block. An unease settled over them both, a palpable dread that clung to their skin like the chill of a winter's night. What kind of woman would wander these haunted grounds at such an hour, fearing for their safety and the impending horrors that might unfold on his very first night? Sanjay steeled himself and ventured back into the dark embrace of the GP block, a place now cloaked in malevolence. With only the narrow beam of his torch to guide him, he stepped into the suffocating darkness, the trees and bushes looming like watchful sentinels. The once inviting bungalow, with its 3 divided sections, now morphed into a labyrinth of dread. What had felt like a tranquil abode during the day took on an entirely different persona as night descended. The silence, which offered solace, now morphed into a cacophony of foreboding. Sanjay felt the weight of unseen eyes upon him. As he wandered deeper into the abyss of the GP block, his mind racing with thoughts of the mysterious girl and the warning that had been uttered. Each creak of the floorboards beneath him echoed like a heartbeat, fueling his trepidation. He knew he had to confront the darkness that lurked within, but as he moved deeper into the shadows, he could not shake the feeling that something was waiting for him. Something sinister, something hungry. In that moment, he became acutely aware that the night was alive, whispering secrets meant to ensnare the unwary. The air thickened with an ominous energy, and as he approached the first section of the GP block, he could feel it, a chill that seeped into his bones, an unmistakable foreboding that heralded the awakening of the horrors that thrived in the silence. Sanjay clutched his stick tightly, heart hammering in his chest as he stepped cautiously into the first section of the GP block. The moment he crossed the threshold, an unnatural chill enveloped him, seeping through his skin and wrapping around his bones. It was summer. Heat should have enveloped him. Yet here he stood shivering, as if he had wandered into a frozen crypt. He swept his flashlight across the dimly lit room, but the girl he sought was nowhere to be found. Instead, a disturbing sight greeted him. Clumps of hair scattered across the floor, each strand a silent testament to a story better left untold. Then from the corner of his eye, 2 glowing red eyes pierced the darkness, watching him with an intensity that made his blood run cold. Sanjay's instincts screamed at him to flee, but curiosity held him in place. As he took a step closer, the eyes vanished, swallowed by the shadows. His search yielded nothing but an oppressive sense of being watched, as if invisible specters were lingering just beyond the veil of light. With a steely resolve, Sanjay pressed onward, determined to uncover the fate of the girl. He moved into the second section, but as he did, a rancid stench assaulted his senses, the nauseating scent of decay that hinted at something dead and forgotten, lying in wait for years. Ignoring the instinct to retreat, he ventured inside, yet the emptiness only deepened his anxiety. As he turned to leave, his flashlight caught a glimpse of a gaping hole in the crumbling wall, a dark invitation into the unknown. For a fleeting moment, a thought flickered through his mind, an echo of a podcast he had heard, recounting tales of witches and the supernatural. "Friends, don't miss our podcast's new series," he mused, lost in the dangerous allure of curiosity. But reality snapped back as he caught sight of figures, clad in British officer uniforms, laughing and toasting among themselves, oblivious to his presence. Anger flared within him as he shouted for them to leave, but their laughter rang hollow as if mocking him. Sanjay dismissed them as drunken revelers, a nuisance in this forsaken place. He moved swiftly to the third section, hoping to confront them directly. Yet upon arrival, the room lay empty, a void echoing with the remnants of their laughter. Just when he thought the nightmare might be over, their raucous guffaws erupted from the floor above, a sound that sent a shiver down his spine. Driven by a mix of anger and fear, he raced up the stairs, bursting into the room where the laughter blossomed into a raucous symphony. There they were, the four boys, still drinking, still laughing, their faces illuminated by the flickering light. Sanjay's voice rose in a desperate plea, demanding they leave, but they ignored him. Sinking deeper into their merry revelry, frustration boiled over and he swung his stick at one of them, but it passed through the boy as if he were made of smoke. In that instant, the laughter ceased. The boys turned to face him, and horror enveloped Sanjay as he beheld their grotesque forms, faces, charred and disfigured, devoid of eyes. Their laughter twisted into a sinister cacophony, echoing in his mind as he stumbled back, heart racing. Terror gripped him and he fled, the sound of their laughter chasing him down the corridor like a spectre hungry for his soul. As he burst out of the room, he spotted her, the girl from before, climbing onto the roof of the first section. She paused, the moonlight casting an ethereal glow upon her, illuminating her long, disheveled hair as she combed it with a practiced, almost ritualistic grace. But it was her eyes that arrested him, the same unsettling red glow that had pierced the darkness earlier, now fixed on him with an intensity that sent chills cascading down his spine. Confusion and terror warred within him, and as she turned to face him, Sanjay felt as if he was standing on the precipice of an abyss, teetering on the edge of sanity. There was something profoundly wrong, something ancient and malevolent in her gaze. As he stood frozen, caught in the web of her stare, he realized he was not just a witness to the horror, he was part of it, ensnared in a nightmarish dance that had only just begun. Panic surged through Sanjay as he sprinted toward the safety of his quarter, desperation fueling his every step. The night air was thick with dread, and just as hope flickered on the horizon, he froze, his heart plummeting. Before him stood another woman draped in a red saree, her presence suffocating. A shudder rippled through him, an instinctual recognition, tugging at the edges of his mind. This was the very spectre his mother had warned him about. "Sanjay," he called, his voice trembling as he reached out, yearning for connection. But as she turned, his blood ran cold. Her face twisted into a grotesque mask of malice, features sharp and contorted, reminiscent of a witch from tales meant to terrify children. In a flash, she lunged at him, a force that was both swift and unyielding. Sanjay barely had time to brace himself before she shoved him with a strength that felt inhuman. His head collided violently with the unforgiving stone, a jolt of pain erupting like fire through his skull. The sensation of her hand against his chest lingered, as though it were a brand of burning iron searing into his flesh. He screamed, a raw, anguished cry that echoed into the night, and in that moment of excruciating agony, he caught a glimpse of the girl in the red sari. She floated away, ethereal and otherworldly, vanishing into the dark embrace of the GP block, as though she had never existed at all. The sound of his screams sliced through the stillness, drawing his mother from the safety of their quarter. She rushed to him, panic etched across her features, only to find her son trembling uncontrollably, eyes wide with horror, fixated on the ominous silhouette of the GP block. "What happened?" She gasped, her heart racing as she knelt beside him, concern laced with fear. But before he could respond, a chilling whisper slithered into Sanjay's ear, a voice that resonated from beyond the veil, echoing with a sinister promise. "I will always be here, and if you and your mother come back, I will kill both of you." The words wrapped around Sanjay like a vice, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He could feel the weight of the threat pressing down on him, a darkness that seeped into his very soul. His mother, sensing the dread that enveloped him, hurriedly guided him back into the staff quarter, the door slamming, shut behind them with a finality that felt like a coffin's lid sealing. Once inside, her maternal instincts kicked in. She examined him, her hands trembling as they brushed over his chest. What she discovered sent an icy thrill of terror coursing through her. Imprinted upon his skin were the unmistakable marks of a human hand, the fingers etched deep, as if someone had pressed down with a force that transcended the physical realm. "What on earth happened to you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, a tremor betraying her fear. Sanjay met her gaze, the horror of his experience weighing heavily in the air between them. They were not alone. Something dark and ancient stirred within the walls of the GP block, watching, waiting, and whispering promises of death that seemed all too real as they huddled together in the dim light of their quarter. The silence outside thickened, pregnant with unspoken horrors. They were trapped in a nightmare, and the knowledge that whatever haunted the GP block had marked them as its own sent waves of cold terror crashing over them. Sanjay's heart raced, knowing that their lives were entwined with the malevolent force lurking just beyond the threshold, a force that promised to return. After that harrowing night, Sanjay made the decision to leave the job for good, a choice etched into his mind with indelible terror. The stories surrounding the GP block began to unfurl before him, revealing a dark tapestry woven from the threads of history and horror. Once a bastion for the British Army, those walls had borne witness to countless tragedies, and it was said that many souls lingered on, trapped in the liminal space between life and death. Whispers of ghostly apparitions floated through the village like a chilling breeze. Tales of British officers seen wandering the grounds, their spectral forms trapped in the fog of time, filled the air with an unsettling tension. But it was the woman in the red sari who haunted the minds of those who dared to speak of the GP block. Countless accounts echoed the same harrowing theme, a malevolent spirit who beckoned and tormented, leaving a trail of dread in her wake. As Sanjay reflected on his brush with the supernatural, he realized how narrowly he had escaped the clutches of the haunted bungalow in Meerut. It wasn't merely a place, it was a nexus of horror, a realm where the past bled into the present, and where the living could easily become prey to the restless dead. The GP block became a subject of heated debate among locals. Some hailed it as India's most haunted bungalow, a place where the veil between worlds was perilously thin. Others dismissed the stories as mere fabrications, tales spun to entertain or scare the gullible. But for Sanjay, the truth was undeniable, a shuddering reminder that certain places hold secrets best left undisturbed. As he stepped away from the shadows of the GP block, he felt a weight lift, yet the memories clung to him like a shadow. He knew he had escaped, but the fear lingered, a ghost of its own. What about you, dear friends? What do you believe about the haunted whispers of Meerut's GP block? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're here, don't miss our latest podcast episode, Tales of Witches, where we delve into the eerie stories of the supernatural. If you found this tale chilling, remember to subscribe to our channel, SFK Tells Story, for more spine-tingling narratives that will keep you on the edge of